Right, there are only
And
four
roll call.
comments.
Mayor Lane.
There are
Present.
only four comments.
Councilmember Alexander.
Present.
Councilmember Ayers. Present. Councilmember Cook.
Here.
Councilmember Brown is at his daughter's basketball game, and Councilmember Martindale had a doctor's, some testing. Attorney Bullock is sick. Police, it's not Moran, it's Garrett. Fire, Robertson.
Here.
Street, Waymire.
Here.
Mechanic, Collins.
No.
Park,
I
Pitts.
regret it.
Cemetery, Crooks.
Here.
Building Commissioner, Pound. Sewer, Olson. And Waste Plant, Hunter.
Here.
Okay, as far as the minutes from the prior meeting, has everybody had a chance to look those over and read those? And do we have a motion to accept those as read?
I'll make a motion, we accept the minutes.
Motion Purtle, do we have a second?
I'll second. Councilmember Alexander.
Aye.
Councilmember Pearl.
All right.
Councilmember Ayers. All three ayes.
Okay, as far as additions or deletions to the agenda, does anybody have anything that they need to add to the agenda? Looks like we don't have much of an agenda as far as new and old business. I would like to add, we do need council organization. We did not do that in the January meeting, so we need to set our officers for 2013, so.
The only thing I thought of, after I printed this up, when it was maybe, I know Deb's heard it because she's at the Board of Works, but the 1782 that we got back from the DLGF about our budget.
Okay, yeah. So our 2013 budget, and that's gonna be Sue Pitts.
Thanks.
Okay. So moving right along with this business, we'll go into item number 1, which is the council organization. Do we have a nomination to serve as the council president for 2013?
I nominate Jack Alexander.
Okay, we have a nomination for Councilman Alexander. Do we have a second? Second, Purtle.
Councilmember Alexander.
Yeah.
Okay, Councilmember Ayers. Aye. Councilmember Pearl.
All right.
All ayes.
Okay. Item number 2, as far as our budget, and Sue Pitts can elaborate on that a little bit.
Okay, told the Board of Works the other night, we got our 1782 back, which tells us what we have to cut from the budget. What we submitted for the general in the paper, we asked for $1,328,203. We actually don't have to cut anything. We gained $120. We get $1,328,323. The only two that has to be cut is MBH and the park. And I didn't figure the figures here for this one tonight. MBH was like 25,000, and the park was like 20 or 21,000. Now, the general will have to be cut, the tax breaker amount.
Due to the
circuit breaker tax.
Yeah,
But that's better compared to what we've had to cut the last several years.
yeah. Actually, that's awesome news. It's probably, we were trying to think back, at least in recent history, quite possibly the first time in the history of the city of Sullivan that the city hasn't had to cut back, and actually received more from the state than what we'd submitted for. So I just think it was a good fiscal year for us in 2012. I think the state recognized that we had to make some tough decisions, but we're running a pretty solid ship, and growth from here on is definitely not a bailout. We're managing our finances, and we're just wanting to grow and move forward with that. So having said that, if you remember from the State of the City address back in December, I did mention to you about a circuit breaker plan, because now that the fact that we are starting to get the city back into financially sound, we're still going to have to address the circuit breaker. It's not going to go away with the property tax caps. It's going to continue to be a strain on the city of Sullivan as well as all cities across the state. So hopefully by March or April, I'd like to present to the city with about a 5-year formal circuit breaker plan where we can start to address these things and be sure to make sure our budget management is not good just for this year, but we continue on this path to financial success, I guess. So be looking forward to that. But that's awesome news. So my hat's off to the council and all the department heads and everybody in the city that has worked this year, put in the extra effort, to make sure we ran everything sound, and looks like the state recognized that, so,
Cutting 10% of what we did last year, basically,
yeah.
is all we're gonna have to do. That's a major step, and you did a good job setting that up too.
You can't do it, alone, you got a lot of good people to help you, so.
So we'll wait till we get the circuit breaker before we set up a meeting to do the cuts, right?
Yeah, we'll find out. And we think it's gonna be, what, 214, is that what it said?
I don't remember, Clint, for sure.
I think that
I
was
don't know if I've
the,
ever really seen anything.
through Indiana cities and towns, when I talked to Mayor Guffin, that he thought it
If
was
it's
gonna be.
214,000, that'd be great, because the last two or 3 years, it's been like 260, 280,000,
Right.
280,000.
So,
So yeah, that'd be great.
and as long as we continue with the They Gotta Go initiative, continuing to rid the city of eyesores, the overall long-term goal is to, we're gonna lose some of that property tax revenue from those properties, but you're also gonna increase the assessed valuation of the city of Sullivan. And when you do that, all levels of government, county, township, state, city, all levels of government will start to receive more funds and revenue. So I think it's gonna be a win-win. It's just long-term planning to get a good result, so. So as far as that, I believe that's all for new and old business. We'll move on to the department reports. Police Department, Assistant Chief Garrett.
Let's see. We had, for the month of January, we had 198 total calls for action. To move on to departmental things that happened. Scott McCann resigned. His last day was February 1st. We've contacted Spencer Brooks, who was next on the hiring list. He has been given a conditional offer of employment. He went yesterday for his perf testing, for his physical and everything in Indianapolis. We also continue to do extra patrols at the school, stop traffic for buses in the morning and the afternoon. I know that was a big concern. Jesse also wanted me to let everybody know that we were accepted for a LCC grant for 4 new PVTs and 1,000 tubes. I think those are supposed to be coming in pretty soon, or the money for that's supposed to come in pretty soon. So that's all the new information I have.
Thank you, sir. Okay, Fire Department, Chief Robertson.
For the month of January, we've had 5 fire calls, 19 rescue medical calls, and 46 ambulance calls. Total 70 calls altogether. Everything else has run pretty smooth so far. We did also lose firefighter Jared Turtle. His last day would be actually tomorrow, and he took a job in Florida. So last week in the Board of Works meeting, they had me go ahead and put out applications for new hiring. So we've got that in the paper now. So hopefully at the end of this month we'll see what we can do on that. Right now, that's all I've got.
Okay. Street Department, Waymire.
For the month of January, the guys were out picking up brush. They put some new cutting edge and shoes on snow plows. We was out salting and sanding. Even though we didn't have a lot of snow, we still got out and salted and sanded when the roads, they get slick, regardless of how much you got. We was out patching some potholes. I know there's a lot of them starting to form again. We're going to get out there just as soon as the weather gets better. We've been cleaning out the fronts of some storm drains. We've got a culvert pipe down on Ohio Street, which is a gravel street. It's in bad shape. It's apparently rotted out, so cast iron pipe. We're going to replace it as soon as the weather gets better. And we met with Steve Moore about the sign project. Me and the mayor and a few of the members of the Board of Works. Tentatively, the sign project should start about March, April, something like that. Everything's a go so far. Just waiting on the paperwork and everything. So basically, that's about all I got.
Yeah, and I'm sure you guys are already aware of that sign project. That's gonna be great. There's gonna be a lot of signs. desperate need of replacement and repair, and there's a lot of missing signs you realize when you go around town, so, it's just all about beautification of the city and trying to increase the quality of life.
We do with all the old signs.
Sell
Well, we've had some residents inquire about them. As of right now, there are no plans with the old signs. We'll keep them down at the city garage. So I'm sure if anybody has any sentimental stake there on a particular road or. Yes.
Does that include the streets that are owned by the railroad and the city uses?
The street that is owned,
Yeah, like the one that goes behind the ice plant and the one in front of it towards Court Street. Those streets used to be the railroads and the city used them.
yeah, I mean, if it's a city
There's no
street,
signs there, that's what I'm
yeah,
saying.
if there's a street,
There's
then there'll be a
streets.
sign, yeah, there's still city streets.
That one that curves around back behind where the ice plant used to be was one of them.
That's South State that comes into Maine.
It's called No Name Street at
It's-
one time.
It goes, no, it goes from Maine to State.
Yeah.
And then one from Court to Maine.
Okay, the one at the end of.
Now, there was some discussion, if there was not a current sign there, would they replace?
They've changed the name of that street a couple of times.
I think Burris Boulevard. would be a
No,
good
I
name.
don't think so. It doesn't go
Matter of
into,
fact, I'm over that
doesn't go
sign right
into
now. Hold on a
Burr's
second.
household.
Okay, I will check on that particular street for you, okay? Once we find out what the name, official name of it is. Okay, and also, thanks to the street department, I know they took care of the issue behind
Yeah,
the
but
bank.
that was,
And also, I was noticing coming up South Section Street today, there's where we've done some of that road work several years ago, that's starting to take its wear and tear, so. They're north of Irene's. When I was leaving there today, I noticed going north, there's a couple if you guys can take a look at, so.
Yeah, the old, but just by the old muffler shop just north of that.
Yeah.
A pretty good sized place starting to develop.
Yeah, it's starting to develop there, so. Every time Dick Crooks comes over from Troll Street, takes that big one. That's constant.
Oh, I was supposed to turn.
But, has anybody else noticed any particular spots in town that let Chris know about?
Well, I talked to Chris about, it's gonna be a problem, I don't know how we're gonna get it resolved, but on Broad Street, where Gray Street goes east, that was a mess up with the grain elevator and stuff. But the residents there in the first block, that road's getting tore up because trucks keep coming out. We were trying to block the corners, but they're still coming through. But I've talked to Chris about
Gray
it.
Street, that's where Tom was.
That's where Tommy lives, yeah. So
Yeah, I believe that was under original agreement that the,
elevators take, but I wasn't on here then. Were they to take care of the whole street or up to a part or what? That's what I didn't
it's officially the truck route, isn't it? Aren't they
No.
supposed to come in?
know. No, they're
Is
not
that not
supposed
part
to
of
go
it?
there. No, sir.
They're not supposed to go that way, but
No,
they do.
that's the problem. They're not supposed to be coming, but they're coming that way, and then over at, daggone it, just north of, in the street just north of it.
I mean, is that an ordinance that we,
There's a truck route.
There's a
Is
particular
there
truck
an
route that they're
ordinance
supposed to
and-
use.
Yeah,
well, the signage needs to say that when we do the new signs, and they need to abide by that.
going south on Broad Street where, right after you turn off of Wolf,
Right,
where Wise off, there's a faded out, no truck sign to the left side. And I think that's pretty well been stopped.
right,
They run up to the Christian church now. But when
right.
they dump, instead of making that turnaround to go back and come back out, they're just coming straight ahead and turn left. And that's where they're getting up in people's yards and things like this.
Oh, yeah,
with the
I've
elevator.
seen it, yeah.
And I don't blame the residents for being upset, let alone the roads being torn up there where they're not supposed to be trucks.
But I didn't know that there was an ordinance that said that we've designated a particular route.
Truck route. I know we've talked about truck routes in the past administrations have.
I remember Herman talking about truck routes. So as far as I know, it's an old thing.
Well, I definitely think if we don't have a truck route on the books, it definitely needs to be something that's looked into. That way, and the local police officers can help us to enforce that. So.
Yeah,
Right.
'cause I mean, it's a blacktop road, but it's not blacktop. I
For-
mean, it's.
It's black.
I know, because I know they
It's
had
mud.
they had helped pave or do some concrete or something. The elevator had at one time. It was my understanding that at one time that was the agreement that they would take care of those particular roads.
This was when, because we closed that one crossing. I think when that all occurred, right? Jeannie, is when they worked out the deal that when they closed that crossing,
But they would,
that they could use it, but they would maintain that road.
I think they were maintaining,
We're maintaining theirs, but not ours.
yeah, well, what is that goes through their.
Holloway.
Holloway.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think they maintain Holloway, don't they, or supposed to?
Right,
Well, that was given to them.
right, we turned that over to them.
Mhm.
I mean, that,
But
cause
I
they're
don't know
the
if they
TIF
maintain
district, and I
anything
think
else.
of that money, well, they were supposed to take care of it, and it's awful. I'll be there again tomorrow, it's all mud.
you probably should contact somebody over there at the elevator.
If they would put maybe a sign at the end of the dump station where the trucks are getting ready to leave, if they had a sign out there, pointing an arrow back to the right, but the, trucks were to go that way. The ideal situation would be a off Wolf Street right down, and then the elevator put a road and meet up with them, and expand that.
Go through Hanford's,
The old property back there, that'd be the ideal thing, but
and I remember that had been talked about one time. I'll tell you what, why don't you get a hold of,
I
we'll
can
make
do
you
it.
the liaison, you can
I
get
can
a hold
do
of the elevator.
I
I mean, the
will.
problem is they've had so many management
Yeah, they keep
turnovers there
doing
that somebody
start.
promises they'll do something and then they're gone.
Gone.
I think that's why
Almost
they
as
get
soon as
going.
they tell you
make a
they'll do it.
promise and they can't.
Well, if we get official document signed with them, and then we get with the sign project, if we can get some signs out, and then over time, a lot of, the management might change, but a lot of the trucks, possibly could be the same people coming in and out, so.
Well,
As long
it's
as they have an
area farmers,
understanding.
basically, is what we're looking at, so I will take that on.
If you can contact them and just say we'd like to develop a truck route, and then the council can pass an ordinance making it an official truck route, and then we can have teeth in it
Okay.
to execute the ordinance. Okay, Mechanic Collins, he's not here. Parks Department, Pitt.
Park, not much going on. I been picking up trash, picking up limbs, taking care of the shelter house and the elementary gym. That's about all.
Even when there's nobody down there, it still collects trash, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
Something.
Yes, it does.
It's like the leaves in my house, when I take the trees down, I still get leaves.
Okay, cemetery, Commissioner Crook.
We had 2 funerals, sold 1 grave, took in $250 on payments, had a donation of $250, so we generated $2,500 in January.
And also, as far as the cemetery, street, whatever, just to let the council know, we're gonna have to look into, matter of fact, we have been looking into purchasing, we need another pickup truck. Cause when Chris was out there at the cemetery, he took his truck, with him to do the street department job, so. And then with the sewer department, one of the trucks went to the sewer department, so we're gonna be we are 1 truck short, so we're gonna have to make a move on that.
Can you get us a deal?
I've been trying, trust me. That's the only reason we haven't pulled the trigger yet, because I'm pretty particular on what we should pay for it and what we shouldn't. I know somebody in the business.
Make a Sunday deal.
Yeah. I think you should have bought one when you bought your vehicle. Just donation there.
Yeah.
Okay, sewer department, Olson.
Been busy since I've been back. We've had a lot of issues, and so,
So I would say we had a lot of issues.
yeah, we've had a lot of issues. We're in great need of a new truck. I've been harping on this. I know Stacy and Brandy has been over and over, but this old truck is about on its last leg. I've had IDM down here, and they're, we're sitting out there. Brandon's not here, but we're out there trying to get this truck to work, and the vacuum won't work, and they're standing over my shoulder, and so we're just in great need of a new truck, and that is very, very vital to this city's sewer system. Other than the plant, I meant that's the next thing that, you know, we've got to look at seriously. So, but I've had a lot of calls and I was out on 4 or 5 calls today. And so it's just an everyday thing here. And this system is going downhill more and more, and we've got to have the equipment to take care of it.
We talked last week at the Board of Works meeting, you know, at one time there were several hundred cities that were still CSO communities, and I believe that they're down to about 90.
Right.
So, you know, other communities are starting to, have been over the past couple of years really addressing their sewer system, and that's definitely something that we're going to have to take a
Yeah, we
serious.
got a big problem with sewer.
It's gonna, well, Stacy can attest, it's gonna get worse. And if we don't start working on it and focusing on it now,
Yeah.
it's gonna hang us. So we need to start focusing on the system and keeping the plant and everything up to order. So we will get a letter from IDM. I don't know what she's gonna write me up on, but she's, you know, trying to grasp at straws to write me up. I don't know what she can, but she will.
Can
So-
you go to jail?
I think Stacy, I just give her Stacy's name. I said, she's a licensed operator. So,
They can pull my license and throw me in jail.
I mean, we,
but no, we didn't do anything wrong. We had a discharge and we worked and worked on it, and so it just depends on who you have as a IDM rep, and this girl didn't like me, I guess, so she's gonna write me up, so.
Lost your charm, huh?
I tried, I did.
I don't know exactly what the Board of Works is gonna want from you or what, but personally, I'd like to see, we discussed a little bit about
Right.
maybe a lease option or something like that.
Right.
Rather than straight.
Yeah,
up. So-
there's all kinds of options
So-
that I can give you guys to look at and what we can do,
Yeah,
but,
I'm not against the upgrading of the equipment, just the way that we're gonna pay for it, just have some
Right.
options laid for us to look
Right,
at.
I
That's all I'm
understand that.
asking.
but it's not just me. I mean, we gotta keep up on, you know, the fire equipment, everything, I understand,
Exactly,
but
exactly.
we've gotta, you know, just keep upgrading.
Well, we're
and-
on our way, so we're just,
Yeah.
things are looking better, let's
Well,
just
I
keep going that
understand
way, yeah. So, appreciate your efforts.
yeah, I mean, obviously to address the sewer system, we all know it's a collapsing system that's been ignored and kind of pushed off to the next guy for years. Obviously, the truck is going to be a big thing there that we're going to have to look at. And these are just small things on the path to try to get there, but the council really needs to take a look at, Chris and I had talked about this, about a tree ordinance, about trees. You know, you can't go make people cut down their trees now. A lot of them have been grandfathered in, but future planting of trees in the city of Sullivan, not, you know, maybe pass an ordinance where they can't plant them next to the road, because that's what we're finding. You know, you find all these tree roots and they're roots. I mean, they're big old honking roots, and it's doing a lot, not helping a system that's already collapsing. So, you know, different things like that, passing those kind of ordinances. Are you seeing anything that residents can do any different, or? I mean, I know check valves. You know, if
Check valves
the
is
system
the
backs
main
up, we've
thing,
talked
and
about
we
that
need
over the years.
to pass an ordinance that any home that has a basement or anything, I would recommend, I think we ought to have a ordinance that says before that home is sold or built, it needs to have a check valve.
And that's one thing some cities have done. They've adopted ordinances with that, if that property exchanges hands, you know, to make sure that they come in and do things like that. Also, new development, new housing development, you know, making sure all those have a check valve. Obviously, just continue to watch the revenue, making sure that the sewer fund's not bailing out the general fund, and start setting some of that money aside. And our comprehensive master plan. And I was going to mention that here at the end of the meeting, but might as well mention it now. The comp plan, the steering committee will meet next Tuesday night at 6 p.m. here at City Hall. And the comprehensive master plan is going to talk about, you know, everything in the city, whether it's the parks, the downtown square, the central park, future growth of the city, where the city's gonna run its infrastructure, subdivisions, housing development, and very importantly, sewers. Where we're gonna put in new sewers, we're gonna construct, and what we can do about those. And I mentioned this before, back in December, I mentioned to the Board of Works. You know, nobody wants to talk about it, but a storm utility is, I mean, it's gotta happen. You've got a lot of this water that's sitting, especially north of town. You know, you see it all the time. I had a lady call the other day up on Roosevelt and State, you know, with their ditches going in, and just a lot of this, a lot of that water just sits up there. So we're gonna have to really look into that stormwater utility. So, I mean, these are just things that the city really needs to be working towards. So.
I got a question for Sue, since we're on the sewer. Since you've taken the billing over and stuff, is that going pretty well? Your billing process or not?
You need to talk to Nikki.
Nikki? Okay, I can come in and do that sometime. That's fine.
I mean, you know,
She always seems busy with it.
She sends them out, and then they come in and they start paying, you know, before she sends the next one out. I don't know what the figure is of people that haven't made a payment. You know, we had someone come in today and make their first payment ever on their sewer bill, and we started billing October 1st. So, yeah, they had a pretty big bill to pay, but they paid it, so.
First one ever.
You know, they keep saying they forget about it coming, and it's postcard size, and they don't fit down, they don't reach down in the mailbox and get it, you know, and when they finally do, they pull out 4 or 5.
But the reason I asked, she always seems pretty busy with it, and I just wonder, keeping up with it
Well-
is basically, is the issue.
We're really, really busy with it for a couple weeks.
Yeah,
Um,
then you have a little catch-up time?
Then we got a little catch-up time, but, I mean,
Okay.
she's also doing things for the mayor,
Well, yeah,
getting
that's
a lot of
what,
stuff done.
what I was
But
getting
the
at.
big thing is, right now, is we're to the point where we can put the sewer liens on.
Okay,
But
that's,
Keystone, you know, when they come down, they sold us the software and stuff, they come down, set it up, taught her how to use it, you know, the ins and outs and stuff. Well, supposedly we've used all of our time up with them, and now it's time to do these liens, and she really needs that lady to come back and help get to this point to learn how to do it.
Okay.
And we've tried to call, and we haven't got a response back from them just yet, so she just made the comment today that Ron's been gone for a couple days and he'll be back tomorrow, that she's gonna try and delve into it herself and try and get it figured out.
Okay.
So. But yeah, she's busy.
well, you're doing a good job getting mine to me, I'll say that.
Well, that's good.
Yeah,
Can we add a little extra to yours?
no, not anymore.
Oh,
Okay. As far as the waste plant, what happened?
That waste plant. Sewer plant's running fine. I do want to touch on that CSO stuff. We met with Todd Trinkle and Jason Palin at the sewer plant to discuss our CSO audit. We don't have any violations, but we need to catch up. I gave you guys a copy of the letter that was included with the audit. There's some things that we need to catch up on. We've already ordered and received the rain gauge. We need to put it somewhere where it measures the intensity of the rain rather than just the amount. We need to put a sign on the Silver Street CSO, and we're going to be putting in public notification to the newspaper about our CSOs, what they are, where they discharge, and we need to put a map in there. So I'll come up with that. We're going to do that in the spring and the fall. I did bring a couple of ordinances for the city attorney for that sewer lateral check valve. It's called a sewer lateral use ordinance, SLU or something. But I was also thinking, as part of that, you know, part of this operational plan for the CSOs, their long-term goal is to make us a sanitary sewer and a storm sewer, not a combined system. Like that's the worst thing you can do, especially with a mechanical plant. It just eats away at your pumps, and all your mechanical features down there just get worn down so much quicker. So anyway, I was thinking with that CSO or the sewer lateral ordinance that we put something in there about downspouts, maybe disconnecting downspouts and sump pumps. And you can also put something in there about the trees, you know, so that has to do with the owner's property getting onto the main. And we could put that all into one ordinance and have it be done with. And that's when the properties change hands. Also, I emailed Keith Bryant with United. He helped us with our pre-treatment program, and he's got all the information for the sewer plant since they built it. So I asked him if he would shoot us a quote on doing the, closing the CSOs. In order to close 3 of the CSOs that are on plant site, we need to prove that the plant can hold a 10-hour or 10-day, 1-hour rainfall event, and it can, but he's just gotta do the math to figure it out and prove it. So as soon as he can prove it or shoots a quote to prove it, then we can close those 3 CSOs on plant site. We won't have to monitor them, and that would be a very good thing. And I think that's all I had as far as, and I'll have that public notification to the city by April, and those ordinances are for the city attorney. And I think that was it. Other than that, we didn't have any exemptions at the plant for January. It's not looking like we're gonna have any for February.
Good.
Are there any questions?
Yeah, we
Yes,
talking about
Stacy.
that's disconnecting sump pumps and stuff, with
Well-
that flood basements?
Yeah, I mean, the problem is, every time a basement floods, it counts as a discharge for the sewer plant. But we can't help it, because we're combined sewer, we got storm and sanitary, so when the city lines are inundated, you know, that's why we're proposing the check valve. If they get filled up, they can't backflow into someone's basement and ruin the furnace and their washer and dryer and all that. And it's best for both parties, really. I think that's the best solution. But yeah, the part of whole unhooking the storm sewer is getting all the downspouts and the sump pumps off the system as well, because that's just a whole bunch of I&I we don't need. Infiltration and inflow.
Well, I got some neighbors don't have to use that, they just got them running out the street in different pipe.
Well, either that way, they still run out the street and down into our storm sewers.
Well, that's,
What are you gonna do then?
What do you-
the
Well,
way the state
that's
put
what
that,
they do.
Stacy, was they had to disconnect from the sanitary sewer.
Mhm.
They could not, but they can run them out to the curb.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, does it make sense? No.
Well, eventually, if we have a storm
But-
sewer and a separate sanitary, it makes sense.
But that's what the state says, so,
Well, wouldn't it make sense to put it all in one ordinance, and that way, when property changes hands, you just
Yeah.
are able to.
right,
know
but
it's gonna be done.
where is a customer gonna run that water? I mean, you're gonna put it into a
Then put it in the street.
septic tank or, you know, hold detention pond, everybody gonna, it's not a good law that they made this to run it out to the curb, because it's going right back to the system.
Yeah.
But that's the way the state wants us to do it right now.
Well, that's what they're saying. Eventually, they want a storm sewer and a sanitary.
Right.
So any.
So you start that now, and by the time
Right.
that you start to do your separation, you'll already have this in place. It'll already be running into the road for this storm to collect it.
Right. So that's what I meant. I think we made an ordinance, well, I think Deb was in, that they could run it to the curb, but they had to disconnect from the sanitary. And didn't make sense to any of us, but a lot of things the state does, doesn't make
I mean,
sense. So,
Stacy,
change jobs so it doesn't go into the sump pump, it goes out to the street, but then when it's cold, you can go ice skating in front of my driveway.
oh yeah, I mean,
It's
you know,
awful.
Chris deals with that every time, you know, it freezes up, people's sump pumps, and
Right.
nothing we can do. I mean, there's not a whole lot, that's what the state's
Right, that's what they
mandated.
said, so, but it's like, ice skating in front of my driveway.
Do either one of you know how much a check valve is, those check valves?
I don't know if they are installed.
It, anywhere from $500 to $1,000.
But if he knows he's gonna have a lot of customers, like Chubby's or, you know, Rex
Yeah,
McKinley,
I
anything
mean-
like that, they could
Well,
probably
you
work
could do
out a
multiple,
deal.
yeah.
Yeah,
I was just curious, I didn't have one.
it's gotten a lot cheaper because now they can put the smaller check valves in where you can just go out there and pull it up, check it, put it back down. Where used to, they had to put a big tub in there and stuff, so, yeah, I don't know how much they're charging now, but a lot cheaper than what they were,
Okay.
a lot less work.
All right, as far as next item of business, citizens present to address the council. Okay, and the council comments.
The only thing I got is that, so glad to see, and they'll soon be finished, is that big two-story house out there by the Moose Dam. That's 2 houses in my district that's been torn down, and I'm thrilled about that. It's starting to look good, and then getting ready to do another one, I guess, pretty soon, so.
It's a 300 block of South State Street, I think, so they're starting to.
So, the people out there in my area that are seeing this happen are commenting that they're happy to see some progress and see some changes. And that's making me feel good, no matter how much I have to do with it or don't have to do with it. But that's what it's all about. We're getting started. It takes a while. We didn't wind up where we are overnight, but we're starting to make things look better. You know, that's the main entrance, one of the main entrances to the lake, you know, neighborhood and stuff, so I'm just glad to see that stuff happening.
Any other council comments? And just like I said earlier, another reminder that next Tuesday night, if anybody can make it, 6 p.m., the steering committee for our first comp plan since 1945. So, moving forward. Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make one.
No, I don't. I'm sorry, but I was trying to call you back. I'm sorry. I had.
She thought she was gonna be vocal. I'm ready.
But